Actually, Pastor Carla called me right after I was getting ready to release the book, and hooked me up with Barnes and Nobles here in town. So I appreciate her for that. So, Lady Di, did you have a question? Yeah, yeah. Believe me, I won't be shorter than that because she just took my job from me. So, she just said everything. I'm just up here to make you laugh. So, what you think about that? Hey, listen. You know what? How many in here are even interested in writing a book? Okay, awesome. Now, how many of you maybe have never thought about writing a book but have a story to tell? Everybody should have a story to tell. Everybody's got a testimony, right? Everybody's got something that can benefit somebody else. And so when I was actually preparing to write my book, I remember God woke me up in the middle of the night, and it was literally just said, "The power of you are." Had no intention at all of writing a book. And I just remember writing it down. I got a little notebook that I keep by the side of my bed, and I was just like, "The power of you are." That's really strange. I had no idea why I wrote that down. So like 4 or 5 days later, I remember I was just driving in the car, working out of town, and I'm like, man, the power of you are. I just kept thinking about it, right? And I'm like, man, the power of you are. I'm like, you are, the word you are, right? I teach, I founded the Fatherhood Encouragement Project, so we work with a lot of dads in the community. And so I taught affirmation leadership to dads and teaching them how to affirm their families and their children and their coworkers and just kind of changing their relationships and teaching them how to be leaders, right? And so I'm like, you are. Everything I say to them is always you are. Everything I'm like, hey, listen, you are this. You are strong. You are bold. You have a good character, right? You are these things. And so, when God put that on my heart, I was like, man, I got to write this book. I got to change the world. Because the thing is you got to do a couple of things. I know Justin said about music, but you got to be different. So I'm a reader, and I have probably 75 books in my just on parenting that I've gone through and read and studied. But what's crazy is, as much as I like reading, there was moments in those books where I was like, this isn't interesting anymore, right? I would learn some things, but it was always like a manual on how I'm going to be a better dad, right? But I wanted to be different. I don't want to read a manual, and nobody wants to read a manual on how you suck. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you want to be different, right? Everybody's got a story to tell, and I was like, you know what? This affirmation leadership, I've seen it work in my son's life. I've seen it work in other dads, kids' lives. I'm watching marriages be restored by teaching them this stuff, and I'm like, man, I just got to tell people the story. It doesn't have to be a step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, do this, right? Just you might be very gifted in an area that you want to write about, and you don't need to go step by step by step to teach somebody to do something. What you got to do is share the story on how you got to where you are and what it's doing to impact people. Because ultimately, you can write a book, but if it's not impacting people, it's worthless. So nobody's going to buy a book that isn't impacting them, and no one's going to give it to their relatives or their friends or tell Facebook if it's not impacting them. The crazy thing is 3 days after I released the book, I was number 12 on Amazon's bestsellers, and I've been on an Amazon bestselling list ever since. So, and you know what that does though? It opens up doors. I mean, people will start to call and they want to book you. I got the entire summer is starting to book up for me, all out of state, which is crazy because I don't even get the local news. The news doesn't even cover my story, but I got Dallas, Los Angeles, San Diego, Orlando, Jackson, Mississippi. I ain't never been to Jackson in my life. And I'm like, these people are all reaching out because they want you to come speak, or Barnes and Nobles. This is what's crazy is Pastor Carla, I remember the publishing company that I went through, they said, hey, listen, I'm just going to give you a heads up. It's really hard to get your book in like a local Barnes and Noble store because it's just really political, and you really got to have numbers when you go to them and say, hey, listen, I sold this many books. Can you guys get it in here and do this? And Pastor Carla was like, no, just walk in there, ask for the manager, tell them that da-da-da-da-da, right? And so, like name drop if you have to, whatever. So, I'm like, yeah, Pastor Carla. She told me to come in here and see you. Did she call you ahead of time? But it worked, right? Because they said, wow, that's really cool. But you know what's so crazy is that the marketing director for Barnes & Nobles in Rockford, she doesn't just do the marketing for the Rockford store. She does multiple the Chicago region, suburbs, all over. But she literally Facebook stalked me before she even emailed. Like after they called, like because I went in there and talked to somebody, right? They called and left a message on my assistant's voicemail, and then before she called back, like she had already sent an email after she stalked me on Facebook. So she literally was like looking through my posts. She was seeing like what I was posting. She was seeing the author page. She was seeing the Fatherhood Encouragement Project page. She literally Googled my name and nothing but positive things came up. So when she did her homework on me, when she reached back out and said, "Hey, listen, I noticed that you were on RR Star did an article this date, da 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 da." Hey, but you know what? Listen, if there's one thing I know how to do is market myself, right? So, yeah, and I got Lady Di marketing for me too. So, but so she really did her homework on me. And so, like, the one thing you don't want to do is when somebody Googles your name, you're on Rockford mugshots, right? Everybody has transgressions, I get it. But listen, you got to do some positive stuff if you're going to do some positive stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, but you want to make sure because people are doing their homework. And like, so the Barnes & Nobles that heard about the book, first of all, Barnes & Noble's already restocked my book like 7 or 8 times. So, and that's here in Rockford. So when we did the book signing, it was non-stop traffic through the whole book, the whole day. I mean, I was there for 3 hours, and it was non-stop people coming. I had no clue who 90% of them were. But because they market for you, once they're going to set you up for a book signing, they market for you. So, I mean, they send out their email blasts, you're on their Twitter feeds, you're on their Facebook feeds, they put a big poster of you up in there. So it is free, publishing for you and marketing for you. So, but listen, the crazy thing is, like when I started writing the book, it really it did take me 3 months, literally exactly. But I finished most of it like in a week, and it was the week after Christmas when I took my son up to a cabin. It was just me and him, and I woke up every morning at 5 a.m. to write, and then 9 a.m. he was on my back, so we had to go do stuff. So, once you just get focused, and also if you do get a publisher, they will give you like, hey, listen, this is the layout your book needs to have, right? This is how you can start it, like, because if you've never written before but you got a publisher, they'll give you that. They'll say, hey, listen, this is, and don't be afraid to ask them if they don't, because some people just don't know if it's your first time. But just don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, I don't even know where to start, right? I mean, I had ideas of each chapter. And that was the hardest part for me, was coming up with the chapter names. And then but I knew what I wanted to write about, but you got to be able to kind of divide and conquer. So you don't have to write it in chronological order. You know what I mean? You don't have to like just start writing it like chapter 1, okay, chapter 2, do. If you got the names and the subjects and the things that you want to focus on in each chapter, then you can write those, and then you can just kind of put it together from that aspect. So you don't have to have all the answers when you start writing. And that's the great thing. And I learned it, and I signed a 2-book deal with this publishing company. So the next one just has to be out in the next 2.5 years from now. So I'm excited about that. But I do have the books here, and they'll be available for $10 today only. Usually they're $15. So, but I think that was it. You want to talk about questions? Questions for either one of us, both of us? Yes, ma'am.
Right. So what I'll do is read the definition of self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Okay. So self-publishing is all about the author. The author pays for the publication of his or her book, and they take all the risk involved. All the benefits of success and risk of failure are carried by the author. The author has control in making design decisions and marketing plans. If the author pays any money for the publication of his or her book, he is or she is self-publishing. So self-publishing is you pay to have it published. It's a company that publishes it, but you pay, and that's all that you then pay them. is that for to get it published. Okay, traditional publishing is all about the publisher. A publisher like HarperCollins or McGraw-Hill pays the author for the rights to a book. The publisher then covers all the costs of publication of the book, and it takes all the risk involved. All the benefits of success and risk of failure are carried by the publisher. The publisher has control in making design decisions and marketing plans. If an author is paid a sum of money for the publication of his or her book, he or she is probably working with a traditional publisher. So if they pay you, the publisher pays you, that's traditional publishing. If you pay to have the book published, then that's self-publishing. Yeah, typically, unless you have a literary agent and a lawyer and all those people that work out a deal. Otherwise, the publishing company owns your book. They own the content and everything. So even though you wrote it, they own it. That's okay if they paying you $1 million, y'all can own it, okay? But typically, initially, you may not want to do that, and it may be hard to sign on with a traditional publishing company unless you have an agent that's getting you in there. It could happen though, but if you want to get it up and get it going that way, at least if you can get one written, then you can say, I'm already a published author. I'm a published author. So then when you go to try to get those kind of deals that could be lucrative, then you can say I'm a published author already. And so remember, it took me about $1,000 to publish mine, and I didn't come up with the money all at one time. I paid it in 3 payments. And I own the content of the book. I can take it to another publishing company. I can, do whatever I want because I own all of the content. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, ma'am, and then you, ma'am. Yes, I own it. Yes, I own it. It was published by whatever publishing company, but I own the book. Yeah, I own the book and the content, the cover, the design, I own that. All of it belongs to me. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my mother started writing before due to her battling and we were able to finish that book. My sisters and siblings have a desire to get that book published for her. What are some ways that we can go by, one, to complete the book, and two, who we can read it, so that she can own it? I mean, it's her book.
As long as she's able to tell you what she wants, is she able, okay, no. So do you all know what her vision was or what it is that she was writing about? Then you just have to make it happen. If you just have to articulate what it is that she wanted. If she's not able to say specifically word by word and dictate it to you, then the only way is you all know what her original intent was or what her vision was for the book, and somehow you all have to collaboratively get together and put that together, knowing what it is that she wanted or what her dream was, or building on what she had already started. So she had already started some of it, then you have to build on what she already started to try to get what her intent was and what her goal was and her objective and desire was for writing the book.